They had plans to take a trip to Ireland. They had time.
Hi, this is Rik Palieri, and welcome to another chapter in the Songwriter's Notebook. It's really great to have an old friend come by and visit. It's always great to have someone who was right here living in the community, has gone away, and kind of started a whole different life, getting back to her music, getting back to her songwriting, and I like to call her my book angel. So I'm really glad to have Amy Collins come here and spend a little bit of time talking about the new things that you're doing. I mean, we met a long time ago. It was kind of one of those special meetings. It was a day right on, I think it was in Mallett's Bay.
Yes, about 10 years ago.
That's right.
Yeah, I just moved to town, loved it here, but didn't know a soul. And I'd been invited to a folk gathering, and I showed up, I think, with potato salad, didn't know a soul.
It was the Burlington Songwriters Group.
Ah.
And it was just one of those chance meetings that we had, and we've been friends for a long time. We don't get a chance to see each other that often, so I'm really pleased that you could come here. And she has some really special news that we're going to talk about. We're going to talk a little bit about her songwriting and her background. I think that one of the things that I mean, of course, you are classically trained. So, you know, I mean, that's one of the things that you can tell right away when people listen to your voice. But let's kind of turn the clock back just a little bit. I mean, because the purpose of the Songwriter's Notebook is to get the people to know a little bit more about you than just reading a bio. So can you tell us a little bit about how you started in your music?
I grew up in a very musical family. My grandfather was a musician from early on. He was actually a music critic, a journalist, and a very talented singer in the Burlington, Vermont area. And John Donahue and all of his kids sang together. So my entire childhood and growing up was spent in five-part harmony. My uncles and my mother, huge folk musicians particularly. My mom was playing Harry Chapin and the Kingston Trio from my very first concert was John Hartford. Yes, so I mean, I grew up in the right tradition. But when I was young, I was forced to take piano and I think flute. But I found the guitar. I grabbed my mom's guitar and I fell in love with it. She showed me a few chords and I've been playing since I was about 9. Wrote my first song when I was 10. It was a really painful Christmas carol, and which, yeah, to this day I still could do a chorus of. And I just fell in love with the guitar and in love with singing.
You know, the song that you started out with when we came onto camera, it kind of, to me, kind of gave me a little bit idea about your roots, because you do a lot of music that is kind of Celtic music.
Yep.
And why don't you do that song, and then we'll talk a little bit more.
I will. This is a true story based on the story of that grandfather, John, and his wife, Rosemary, my grandmother, but also a wonderful woman that he met after Rosemary passed away, and the story of old love, which I've always loved their courtship. This is called Rosemary's Home. They had plans to take a trip to Ireland. They had time. They'd leave once the kids were grown. Rosemary had the strangest feeling late one night. She closed her eyes and he woke up alone. And the minstrel boy was playing between the hours of 12 and 2. All his neighbors kept on saying, "Is there anything I can do?" Toasts were made, glasses raised. Oh, the stories they told. That day in Rosemary's Home. But he found his way into Killarney. He found the house his parents were married in. He found a sparkle in a woman's eye. He found that he just might love again. And then the minstrel boy was playing as they walked from the church, hand in hand, man and wife, for better or for worse. Toasts were made, glasses raised, oh, the stories they told that day in Rosemary's Home. Land of song, says the warrior bard, though all the world betrays thee. She tends the yard and the garden. He tends to sing a little too loud in church. She made room for her furniture. They made a home in a house that wasn't hers. But then the minstrel boy was playing as she walked for one last time to the ground where she would lay him down by Rosemary's side. Toasts were made, glasses raised, oh, the stories they told that day in Rosemary's Home.
Just took me on a little journey. Oh, wow. Have you spent any time over in Ireland?
I've been over quite a few times. Yep. I'm very, very fortunate. My life has been one that travel has been available to me. And yes, I've gone over to Europe a lot, in Ireland in particular.
And what does it mean to you when you go back there?
Well, I don't have the same feeling for Ireland that a lot of the Irish Americans have. I have a number of friends who are very active in the Hibernian organization here in the United States. I feel sad when I go over to Ireland. I feel sad about the wars and the violence. I see it as a country still torn by religion and faith and history, and I find it somewhat sad. I find it unnecessary. So when I go over there, it's always a little melancholy for me. Yes, the hills are beautiful and the music is touching and the people are so kind. And I've met family, and my sister lived there for a while, and her friends are there. And while I'm very fond of the place, it's never a completely peaceful, happy visit for me because of my own personal peacenik hippie beliefs.
Well, I mean, I think that, you're expressing that through your music, as far as your love for the country. You can feel that. Like I said, when I was listening to the words of the song, it was like the way that I think a lot of us, who are, come from an ethnic background, we always have that longing for, to kind of reach back and touch those ancestors. And I think that's what that song did.
And it's completely unconscious. I have been leaning towards Celtic art and Celtic music since before I gave two hoots and a cluck about being Irish. I mean, I didn't care. It was very important to my grandfather and my family. I mean, being Irish was important. But half of me is French Canadian. But we were all into being Irish. But I lean towards that without even meaning to. And now that it means so much to me, and I play so much Celtic music with both myself and with some other bandmates, and I'm really learning the tradition and the history. I'm loving it.
That's great. Well, one of the things I want to make sure that we talk about is Amy, has been kind of really catching up the new wave of being able to get your music out there. And we haven't really talked too much about this on the Songwriter's Notebook before, so I thought we would talk a little bit about your album that you're doing right now and how that came to be.
Well, as you know, and as they're about to, I work in book publishing. And book publishing has been going through a huge upheaval, mainly because of what the music industry has gone through. I've paid close attention to the music industry because it's affecting my day job. And one of the things that's happening both in the music industry and in the gaming industry and in a lot of creative endeavors is that artists are able now, through different online micro-funding programs, which I used Kickstarter, but there's several of them. There's micro-funds where they can set up a page with some samples of their work and invite total strangers and friends and fellow musicians, but mainly the community, to check them out. And if they like what they hear, they can make a small investment in their project. Now, I'm doing an album right now. We're in the studio now as we speak. We're recording in Black Dog Studios in Stillwater, New York, and I have 9 musicians. And again, I'm a very lucky woman. I could afford to do this album the way, a lot of us have done the album over the years, where we save and scrimp and we beg our friends to play for free, and we stay up late at night and we burn 50 at a time on it while we're watching David Letterman, and we handwrite a signature on the CD and put them in a case and pray that no one wants them shrink wrapped. But I wanted to do a CD. I've done several that way. I wanted to do a real album. So I signed up for Kickstarter, which Kickstarter.com is owned by Amazon.com. I'm familiar with those because of my day job. And the way it works is you set a short period of time. And you say, okay, for the next 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month. I did 2 weeks. We have to hit my goal. I set a goal of $2,000. I wanted to pay the musicians on my album. I can afford to do everything else, but it's really important to me that if musicians who are all starting, especially club owners, are starting to feel a little devalued, I think the quickest way we can start getting paid for our work is to pay each other. I did not want my musicians playing for free on my album. So I did a Kickstarter fund, and within a week, we had hit my goal. We were a week ahead of time, which is very unusual. I was very lucky. But a number of the people who supported the album, and the way they support it is this. You get a reward. You can donate $10 and get a free download, or $15 and get a signed CD. $25 got you an invitation to a private release party. $50 got you, I think, free dinner at the private release party, plus a CD, plus a t-shirt. $200, and we had 3 people donate $200 or more, and I'm very grateful to them. But got a free house concert. My band and I will come to their house and give them a house concert anywhere, and we said within reason in the Northeast. And one of the people who donated is in Block Island, Rhode Island, so they really stretched it. But we're happy.
Well, yeah, I think it's worthwhile to
absolutely. So
to
now
do
my
that.
guys, now the musicians are being paid. We're able to press an album. Our recording engineer Teddy Malia is amazing, and while I had all that in the budget, I thought it was really important to pay the musicians, and the community agreed. They listened to my video online, and a number of the people who supported me I've never met.
Did you, when you went into this, did you really think that it was going to work?
No. Most of them don't. Most of the Kickstarters don't make their goal. But I was given some great advice by a woman, Erin Harks, who is an amazing songwriter in the Albany area. And Erin had just done a Kickstarter, and she made her goal. And one of the things that she advised me about her project was don't shoot too high. If you can get away with 1,000, ask for 1,000. If you can get away with 2, don't ask for $10,000.
Right.
Don't be silly.
Yeah.
Be realistic. And I figured there was 100 people, give or take, who would like to buy my CD. So I figured if this is an opportunity for them to buy it early.
Right.
So
right.
they just buy this. They're going to buy it anyway. And this way it helps fund the album. So I got some great advice. I was also told my cousin, Robert Donahue, does a lot of Kickstarter programs with his game work. And he immediately, thank God for the internet, got online and said, you need a video and you need more pictures. And so the first day I literally, if you go to Kickstarter.com and look for Amy Collins, you'll see this video that I did real quick on the internet in like 20 minutes. Hopefully I'll do a better job with the actual album music.
Fine. I watched it. It worked fine.
Yeah.
It worked fine. Now, I think that what I'd like to just touch on this idea that you say that a lot of the ideas don't pan out. They don't work. What happens? What happens with the money that the people do raise?
If you had gone on, and you did, I believe, thank you for that, but you've gone on and donated, I believe it was 40 cents, your credit card is not charged until the Kickstarter is successful.
Right.
It is simply held in a little safe, off-site shore. Your credit card number is perfectly safe, but it doesn't get charged. And then my Kickstarter ended on the first day of our recording, March 23rd. So on March 23rd at 1 o'clock, we started recording, and I thought that would be a good time to end the Kickstarter campaign. March 23rd at 1 o'clock, your credit card was charged, or debit card, or your check was cashed.
Right. So you know, but if it doesn't work,
you don't lose a penny.
You don't lose a penny. See, that was the thing that I guess I got some wrong information about that. You know, saying that that if you don't make your goal, that the money, you know,
never gets charged.
Never gets charged.
No, I've had several friends try Kickstarter and other microfunding programs. You know, pick the one that's right for you. I liked Kickstarter because it was so easy, and because people could use their Amazon account.
Great.
Just to sign in, and how easy is that? We all have an Amazon account.
That's
Sorry,
right.
Barnes & Noble, but we do.
Well, Amy, I think it's time for another song.
Fantastic.
What do you have for us?
Well, I actually wrote, many, many years ago, I was a musician, so I was broke. And it was my father's birthday coming up, and I wrote him this song. I have not played this song in many, many years, but this morning in my parents' guest room, I noticed that the lyrics to this song were still hanging on a wall with a very old picture of me. I wish I could have grabbed that picture, but I didn't. But it reminded me of this song, and so I'd like to play, and I wrote this for my father. The child of 5 awakens in the night crying, Daddy, where are you? He holds her close and he dries her tears of fright, sings to her the whole night through. A girl of 13 slams the door in the rain, screaming, you just don't understand. It's a father's job to give her everything she needs. She's had to settle for just giving what she can. And the ties that bind aren't always gentle, aren't always kind, but they serve to remind all that he has taught you and how much you've yet to learn. And no matter what you're given, there are some things you must earn. Oh, try though you might, you can't deny the ties that bind. All of 18 and running for the door, just knowing she can't make it on her own. He would try to stop her, but she's never listened before. She's determined to grow up all alone. And the ties that bind aren't always gentle, aren't always kind, but they that He has taught you and how much you've yet to learn. And no matter what you're given, there are some things you must earn. Oh, try though you might, you can't deny the ties that bind. There are days she hides from the phone, afraid he'll call and ask her what is wrong. Dad, I'm scared. I want to come home. I'm so tired of facing life head on. And the ties that bind haven't always been gentle, have not been kind, but they serve to remind all that He has taught you and how much you've yet to learn. And no matter what you're given, there are some things you must earn. Try though you might, you can't deny the ties that bind.
The ties that bind. Music has been the tie that has been binding you, Amy, because you talked about the struggle that you've had with music as far as you had to put it aside a couple of times.
Mm-hmm.
You want to tell our viewers about that?
I keep leaving music as though it's an option. I don't understand what happens, but when I was young, I toured as a musician. I was a folk musician. I was writing songs. And then I fell into the book publishing industry, which I loved, and very slowly moved into the book world. I did it consciously. At no point did I turn around and say, oh dear, I'm not a musician. I knew what I was doing, but I put aside my music for my career. And then in 2003, I was transferred to Vermont, and I met you and several of the Burlington Songwriter folks, Rebecca in particular, and some very talented people here. And I started playing again. I wrote a couple songs I played them for you 10 years ago. And I started writing again and playing folk music and rediscovering my love of real traditional Celtic music and Americana and some Appalachian and Scottish and child ballads. And my career and my life took over again. My job is wonderful, but it transferred me to the Midwest. I met and married and became a stepmother of 4, and music just took a back seat for about 10 years. And last year, again, having been transferred, now living in Albany, New York, and running my own business, but having moved to Albany so I could be closer to family in the Vermont area, but needing to live close enough to New York City in the book publishing industry, chose Albany and met an amazing group of people. Took out a Craigslist ad and said, I'm kind of new to town and I'm looking to find musicians to play with. And let me tell you, that got me a lot of funny responses, a lot of really inappropriate emails. I hadn't thought that one through. But I got one really good one, a guy named Frank Novko, Big Frank, who is part of Big Frank and the Bargain Bingers, asked me to come out and jam with his blues band. At blues? Me? No. And we ended up singing Angel from Montgomery, which I'd not sung in 10 years or more. And I met some amazing people, and I had a really good time. And for the next 4 months, every Thursday night, I'd show up at his open mic, and I'd sweat, and I'd just nervous, and I'd shake, and I've got a song I'd like to play for you. But eventually, they introduced me to Frank Jacklich, who you may know in the area, very well-known, very generous musician in the Albany area. And I slowly started meeting other musicians. We started playing together. I formed my own band. I now play out 5-10 times a month, and I'm doing an album. And it all happened because of a Craigslist ad and because I can't stay away from music no matter how hard I try.
Wow. Well, first of all, we got to make sure that people at home know that you have a website.
Yes. My name is Amy Collins, and my website is amycollinsmusic.com. And you can download, I believe music should be free. Musicians should be paid, but music should be free. So I have 10 or 12 songs on that website that you can download right now to your MP3 player if you want it, or burn onto a CD.
That's great.
And as well as a calendar of where I'm showing. I do play up here in the Burlington area. Radio Bean has been very kind to me, and I come up and play every few months. But mainly I'm playing down in the upstate New York area.
Now, you have another guitar with you. I want to
I
make sure that you get that on, because we have about 5 minutes.
All right.
So can you do that?
I would be happy to.
I'll hold your guitar here.
I have a guitar stand.
Okay, there's good.
But Roseanne Ranieri is a singer-songwriter from the Albany area whom I met in college when we were both children. And she's a big proponent of alternate tunings. And I learned them from her, and I started writing songs in alternate tunings, including one called Hour of the Wolf that is actually going to be the title of my album. Hour of the Wolf, the album that we're recording now. So when this show shows in May, and you go on my website, you'll probably see Hour of the Wolf, and this is the title song for it. May I play it for you?
Go ahead.
Check out time on the back of the door, matching cliches above the bed. Little box in 309 in green beside my head. I can taste the cigarettes and whiskey on my teeth. 3:11, too late to fall asleep. Now when I was 17, a prank when I was 10. Every thoughtless, cruel remark that I have made since then. You haven't lived until you've lived to see the day. Every thought you ever had comes out to play.